Hello, this is video 44. Actually, it's more like video 43 part B or something like that, because this is the stuff that I was not able to squeeze onto the whiteboard, but it's still about while loops. I'm going to call these important, P-O-R-T-A-N-T, important notes about while loops. About time we had some important notes, huh? Number one important note. If condition is false, when we first reach the while loop from above, I'm going to pause and catch up with that before I go any further, and that says above right there, A-B-O-B-E. If condition is false, when we first reach the while loop from above, that's the way it's described. Remember, the CPU is going through doing your steps one at a time, one after the other, one line after the next. When we do that one after another, and we first get down to the while loop, that's called reaching the while loop from above. Makes sense, doesn't it? And if the condition is false when we first get there, the very first time it's tested, then statement L is never executed. It has that in common with the first format of the if statement. It's possible that we don't execute the indented statements underneath the while statement at all. While condition indented statements, if that condition is false when we first get there, it never does the indented statement. It skips past them the first time. And just like I said, it's just like the very first example of an if that we looked at that didn't have an else. If the condition is false, it just skips over and doesn't do anything else. That's one important thing. Just kind of highlight the similarity between that and an if. Here's another possibility. If condition is true rather than false. And I'm going to abbreviate this. If condition is true the first time, again meaning when we first get here from above, pause, then I'm not even going to glorify this by writing it on the board, then yeah, we are going to execute the indented statements. The CPU will. Condition is true the first time, it'll do those indented statements. That's not what I want to say here, though. Condition is true the first time, then there must, underlined, must be some way, must and some, emphasis two places, then there must be some way for condition to become. Man, all these emphasized words. You underline everything, it's like nothing's underlined. If condition is true the first time, then there must be some way for condition to become false by executing statements L. Period. Let's think about that real hard. If condition is true the first time, when we first get there from above, executing one line at a time, then there's got to be some way for that condition to become false by executing the statements that are inside the while loop. In other words, eventually there's got to be some way for the condition to become false. And if you remember that example from the last video, count started off at 0. That's what we were testing in the condition. But it was gradually creeping up one at a time. When it got up to 3, then the condition became false and we fell out of the loop. This one has an evil otherwise. Ooh. Otherwise will be in an infinite loop. Exclamation point. That is the technical term. Otherwise, we'll be in an infinite loop. There's no way to get out of here. Your program will never stop. It'll go over and over. If I forgot and said something silly like count equals count minus 1, So it goes from 0 down to -1 down to -2. It's never going to be greater than 3, and I'll never get out. That would be bad. Or if I just didn't have anything about count in there at all, if all I did was just print out strike, it'll go, what was it? Strike 1, strike 1, strike 1, strike 1, forever, infinity, and never stop. You don't want that. You don't want an infinite loop. And how do I even detect that? You know what? You detect that by, it looks like, if you're not producing any output particularly, it looks like your screen freezes. It looks like you broke the computer. No, I take that back. You're not going to break the computer. It looks like the program stopped running, but it doesn't give you any prompt back or anything. It looks like it's stuck. That's because it's going through your loop over and over and over again, and that's all it's thinking about. One more note, 3. Oh, just for my benefit. There is no such thing as an if loop. Does not exist. There is no such thing as an if loop. If is a one-way trip. Here we are executing our execution path one statement at a time. We get to an if, the condition is true. Okay, we'll do the indented statements and then we'll keep going, no looking back. Oh no, I get to my if statements, the condition is false. Well, I skip over the indented statements, but I still keep going. There is no coming back and looping back. There is no if loop. And I say that because that's another one of those common errors that I see in programs when people are first trying to get their Python legs to be stable. There is a big difference between an if condition, colon, and a while condition, colon. You got to be careful with the while not to get in an infinite loop. You got to be careful not to think your if is going to do the same thing over and over, because it's not. It's either going to do it or it's not, and then it's going to quit. Okay, that's an awful lot of stuff to talk about without looking at some code. So there will be code attached to the email announcing these videos for you to take a look at. And until all that time, I'll see you online.